Hey everyone. Apologies for the delays on the tutorials. The weather's starting to change, so I have a little bit more time indoors, and hopefully we'll be making quite a few this winter. So let's just get started. Um, I'm just going to open up Rhino Grasshopper, and let's just start out with a plain surface. And let's populate it out with some points there. I'm going to leave these relatively low, like 15 for now. And we're going to graph this so we can start to move them up. Okay, and we're going to type in series. And let's do, I don't know, 7 for the count. Let's do 5 for the height there. We need to do a Z vector for the move. Just like that. So we're just going to move them up in space. I'm going to make them a little bit higher. Then from here, I'm going to type in rotate. And we're going to rotate those points. We'll change from radians to degrees. We're going to type in series one more time. Pop it into the point there. And from here, we're just going to put the count to the count on the first series. And then we'll type in 25 for the rotation here. We'll start to rotate those out. And then let's connect them all with an interpolated line. There we go. And I'm just going to hide everything else so we can start to see what we're working with there. So we just got some kind of curling kind of lines there. I'm going to bring up the count just to make it a little bit higher. Let's bring it up to like 30 or so. That looks awesome. And then let's turn the rotation up just a bit more there. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is just type in rectangle. And we're going to just populate this about a rectangle on all the control points. I'm going to give it a 25 by 25 dimension. Then we're going to just type in control points. Control polygon works too. And that'll just give us our corner points there. And from here I'm going to type in area, and what we'll need to do is just plug that into our original plane surface. And then I'm going to type in orient. We're going to orient all those curves from its center on our plane surface to the control points on the rectangle. There we go. We'll start to get kind of a shape there starting to happen. We can make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to leave it relatively close to one another. All right. And then from here, what I want to do is start to transform these lines just a bit. So I'm going to type in twist. Okay. And we're just going to twist all those geometries. We're going to create a line. XYZ with the points. We'll copy that down. And I'm going to type in 55 for the Z on one of these. We'll see how high it goes. Let's try to get it near the top, so we'll need a little bit more than 100. Let's go up to 300 there. Get it pretty close up there. Okay, 132 looks about right. We're going to do that for both those points, and then we need to give it, let's see here, a Y dimension. So we'll just plug that into there. We can lower this down just like that. And from here, we could probably raise that one up a bit. And then we're just going to type in line. And that's going to give us our twist axis that we need. Okay, we'll plug that right into here. Then we can hide everything else to see what our twist is starting to do. So that's looking all right. And then I'm just going to type in 15, plug it into the radians angle here. And that'll control the spin on that. Bring that down just a bit there. That's looking pretty good. Let's mess with the rectangle that we have. Maybe kind of broaden it out just a bit there. And then maybe we'll just kind of play with the axis there. It's not too wild, but wild enough that we get some good models start to happen. Okay, that's looking all right. Obviously, we can change this however we want. The crazier, the better. Then what I'm going to do is just type in mirror. And we're just going to mirror it onto itself. We're going to change the actual plane there. I'm just going to construct a point. We're going to mirror around the YZ plane. Plug that into here, into there. And then we're going to change the X point there so we can start to see it mirror onto itself. I'm going to give it a negative number just like that. Okay, we'll plug that in one more, or pull the number slider up just a bit. I'm going to mess with the rotation just again, just to see what we can see, all the different variations we could potentially get. We can get more or less, start to get some really kind of crazy outputs in here. That's looking pretty good. Again, we can mess with this a little bit later. And then what I'm going to do next is just actually mirror it again. What we need to do is plug it into the twist and the mirror on this one. And we're going to mirror it around the XY plane. That'll give it some height for our model. And from here, we're just going to plug, we can delete out the negative. Basically, we're going to just bring that up high. And we can give it a larger number, maybe a 300 again. Just like that. And I might bring this just a hair closer in there. And we'll play with the twist again, see what variations we can start to achieve. Getting some pretty unique looking stuff starting to happen there. And if we play around with our line again, we can start to really get some craziness. Okay, I'm just going to start messing with it, find the extremes of each one of these. So that's looking pretty cool. I don't know what it is, but that's fine. We're here just to experiment. There we go. So that's looking pretty good to me. And of course we can start to play with how big our initial rectangle is to try to broaden this out just a bit more. And we can play with the number of lines, although that's going to make our overall model extremely complex and probably pretty heavy, so we want to kind of be wary on that. Okay, and then from here I'm going to type in variable pipe, or pipe variable, and for this command we need to evaluate the length of each one of these curves. So we plug that into our mirrored there, and then we need to give it 3 different kind of variables, one starting at 0 because it goes 0.5 and 1 being the full length of each curve. And so from here I'm just going to turn this up. That's where the evaluation is going to be, somewhere in the middle, and this one can go all the way to 1. We're going to plug these in order, 0 to 1, and we can plug the lowercase t into the lowercase t on the variable pipe. And then next we need to give it some radiuses. So I'm going to type in 3 for the first radius, and that'll start at the bottom. The second radius, I'm going to make it slightly smaller, so 1 or around 1. Plug that into here. And then we need to have a third. I'm going to make this really, really teeny. And we'll plug that third into here. And that doesn't seem to be going, which is fine. Might have to graft it all out and give it just a second. There we go. Perfect. And looks like we need to include, what we might do actually is just plug all the curves into one curve number, or curve plug. So I'm just going to graft that all out, graft this all out. And we need to do the twist, and that'll add all the curves into here. Okay, and we can hide everything just to see what we're getting there. It's starting to look pretty interesting. Okay, I'm going to make the bottom radius just a hair thicker. There we go. And then the mid radius looks pretty good. And I'm just going to turn the intersection of the mirror just a hair lower so we get some more density in the center there. There we go, that's looking pretty nice. Might bring it up just a bit. That's looking pretty interesting. Okay. I'm going to turn the variable off just momentarily. Let's see what other form finding things we can do really quickly. Just add a little bit more to this overall thing. So if we get too crazy with the rotation, it kind of loses a little bit of order, at least in my mind. So we can get some relatively cool looking stuff with lower rotation. Okay, and then if we start to mess with that line more and more, it starts to happen. That's looking pretty cool. That looks pretty nice to me, wherever this thing is. Okay, and what happens if we start to mess with, I like the density there. If we start to mess with the height there, that's going to look pretty cool right there. All right, what happens if we bring it in closer? Okay, and then if we bring this in tighter, that's looking pretty neat. Let's bring our rotation even higher. Awesome. I kind of like the order in the center there. If we bring it too low, it's going to start to just create more or less just kind of circle things, which I don't particularly want. That looks good to me. So the farther out we get, the larger the rotation, or the twist, I should say. Awesome. Then from here, I'm just going to turn our variable pipe back on, just to see what it's starting to look like. Give it just a moment there. Okay, I'm going to increase the bottom dimension to, let's do 0.5. Just to give it a little bit of thickness there in the center. That's looking pretty cool to me. Let's bake it out, see what it starts to look like in a render view. That's looking pretty cool. What happens if we start to mirror it around onto itself? Pretty nifty. Yeah, it's just kind of missing something still. Let's increase, or let's mesh it out maybe. Mesh B-rep. We'll give it a little bit of texture maybe. Okay, let's use Weaver Bird. And let's do the stellate on it. Let's see what that's, actually I'm going to join all these together just so it runs a little bit faster. We'll flatten that out. Okay, I'm going to hide everything. What's this start to look like? That's looking better. A little bit wild looking right now. But if we kind of tone it down, that's going to look pretty sweet. Okay, so on the stellate, I'm just going to turn that down to 1 for now, see what it looks like. There we go, that might look good right there. Yeah, I'm liking that. It's a relatively light model, but we're getting a lot of detail, which is great. Yeah, it's looking really nice. What if we go negative on the stellate, maybe? Type in negative. See if it looks better or worse. Yeah, it looks worse. Let's not use that one. Okay. And then one thing I want to try is let's bring that rectangle at the beginning. Let's bring it down to 20 perhaps. Get it a little bit tighter in the center there. Otherwise we might increase the overall bottom dimension or the lower radius for the variable pipe. So let's just bake that out, see what that starts to look like. I kind of like it further apart. Let's go back, let's put in 35 potentially for the rectangle. Give it a little bit more dimensions in the X and the Y. And then I'm going to increase both of these. So let's turn our middle radius into 2, and then we'll do our bottom into 1. We'll just give it a second. We'll load up. Let's do 1. See what that gets us. There we go. Let's bake that out, see what it looks like. Oops, still a negative. We don't want the negative on our stellate. Put in the positive there. And we'll bake that out, see what it looks like. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. Almost tribal looking. Even this side looks relatively neat. Awesome. I might increase the radius on all of them. I think our mesh is pretty heavy right now, but that's totally fine. Let's do like 8 for the bottom radius. Then we're going to jump the 2 up to, let's just say 4. We'll just double almost everything. And let's do this too. Then we'll get some nice kind of blending into each other with these shapes. Okay, let's bake that out, see what it looks like. That's looking pretty cool for the most part. A lot of detail in there. I kind of like it. What if we did the mid radius really big, and then what if we do total opposite of what we were doing? So let's pump that down to 2 for the bottom. So we'll get some kind of lighter striations starting to happen there. And then what if we bump up the bottom to 6, or the top radius there to 6, 2, 4, 6. What if we make the bottom even smaller? And then let's mess with the evaluate length. We'll bring that to a higher level there. Let's do like 0.75 for the mid evaluation. And that'll basically bump up all those radiuses a little bit higher. We can probably even go further than that. Let's do 0.85. That way we'll get some kind of smaller striations at the bottom, and then I'll really thicken out near the midsection there. Let's see what that starts to look like. There we go. That's looking pretty sweet. I kind of like that. Let's do the bottom or the top radius there as 1 again. So it goes thin to thick to thin. And then let's mess with the mid radius to 2. That's looking pretty cool. I think the mid radius should be a little bit thicker. Oop. Wait for it to load up. Okay, and then I'm just going to go back to our curves one more time. Let's see if we can get just a little bit more character in each one of these. What happens if we do go crazy with it? Let's just try it. I think the other way to go, it could look really nice, but you never know. Let's bake that out, see if it looks sweet. It's not that cool. Might look cool, I don't know. Let's keep messing with that, just a hair more. That might be too much. I kind of like it simple. Even like that. Looks pretty sweet. If we mess with this too much, it gets a little bit too low. This could be interesting. Doesn't look like it can stand up on its own though. That could be really cool. It's all based on your perspective on this particular example. looking for here. Let's just try something like that. I think this could look cool, especially if we kind of distorted it a little bit in Rhino. Bring it up, make it a little bit taller, and then we'll make like duplicates of it. That's looking cool, whatever it is. Yeah, I like that. So let's work with that for sure. One thing I'm going to do is just kind of, I'm going to distort it and just make it a little bit taller. And then I'm going to just copy it around so we can see it from multiple angles within the same viewport that we're going to be using. Okay, and then let's just rotate it like this, copy it over by tapping Alt, bring it over just like this. Let's see what that looks like rendered out. Rotate this around. Okay, let's go to rendered. There we go, that looks pretty sweet. Kind of alien-like. Awesome, we're gonna work with that. I'm just gonna select them all, join them together. This might take a little bit of time just because there's a lot of mesh faces in here. So definitely be patient. And if you guys are following along to this point, please definitely subscribe. It helps out with the channel, and it kind of persuades me to make more videos. And definitely comment with questions and post your stuff on Instagram if you can. I like seeing what you guys do. And we'll just give this 1 second to kind of load up. Awesome, so they're all joined together. I'm just going to change the material on here. And I've been getting questions on where do I get my layers. I've been kind of just making material layers for a few years, just so I have like a template ready. It definitely helps with rendering in Enscape or even Lumion, because everything's organized based on the rendering name, and that's how you kind of separate out the materials in each one of those programs. So I definitely suggest you make your own with your specific materials that you like to use every day. So we just used a bounding box. We're just going to rebuild this surface out. I'm just going to do 55 by 55, 3 degrees on both the U and the V. I'm going to turn the points on here, and we're going to go up to our select brush here. And I'm thinking these might be sitting kind of in some water. So we'll leave it relatively simple landscape today. I'm just going to do some squigglies all around here. We'll just lift those up slightly, just like that. Awesome. And we'll turn our points on one more time. And we'll use our paintbrush to kind of make this almost water pit through here. We'll have this kind of trickle out through, make it kind of large. There we go. And we'll just pull that down just like that. Okay. And I'm just going to rotate this so we can get kind of a clear angle when we get into Lumion. And then from here, I'm just going to type in smooth. We'll just kind of smooth out the surface just a hair there. Awesome. I'm going to change this, or I'm going to just click our surface, tap Alt, and just pull that up in the Z direction. That new surface that we just created will be our grass layer. This will be our sand layer. Awesome. And then we're just going to make our water layer, just with a simple plane. That's great. And you can see it's just kind of nicely flowing through there. I'm just going to lower it down just a bit, and we'll change that over to our pool layer, unlock our model, and we are all set for Lumion. All right, so this took a little bit longer to import than usual, just because all the kind of mesh faces that we have in there. So that's a lot of geometry for Lumion. So let's just start putting some materials on here. I'm just going to change this over to grass really quick. Give it just a moment. We'll go to various, 3D grass, wild grass, and I might make it just a hair bigger just because we want it to kind of blend into the sand layer there. So we'll just change the size up, give it a little bit of extra length. Awesome. Change this over to sand, or maybe some sort of dirt. I don't know if we want it to be super dark. The footprints kind of annoy me, but it looks all right. Or do we do ground? I kind of like the dirt, I guess. Dirt's fine. The water's a little bit too crazy, so let's change that over. Water, let's do blue lake, nice and calm. And then these guys, I think we'll just leave it kind of a maybe a stone or tile, maybe. Something with a little bit of texture. Kind of accentuates those little bumps everywhere. We'll get some nice shadows starting to cast on there. I think that's good enough for materials. Let's add in some trees out into the distance. Let's do maybe conifers. Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to do a paint for all this. We'll just paint it right along the edges there. This one I'm going to leave relatively simple in landscape. Okay, we'll have some kind of bleeding into the dirt there. Awesome. What if we got any shorter ones? Japanese cypress, we'll turn up the density on that. We'll just kind of paint that out. Looks like I painted some over the water, so we'll go back and just delete those. Put the wrong one, probably. There we go. That might get in the way for our overall shadows starting to play with the sun and all that stuff, so we've got to be kind of weary. I'm going to just add some taller ones here so we get kind of a more mature forest happening in the distance behind the smaller trees in here. That's great. Let's add in some maybe some fallen trees in here. We'll just do those by hand. Just to kind of get in there just a bit with some extra detail starting to happen. That one kind of looks like crap. We'll leave that one out. Okay. We'll get some throughout the space here. It's going to kind of roll into the landscape just because Lumion doesn't know, you know, our surfaces aren't flat there, so it doesn't orient the greatest on that, but no big deal. I'm just going to rotate this one just a bit. Okay, let's get some kind of leafless shrubs starting to kind of trickle through here, just down by the water's edge. Not everywhere, but just a few. Looks good. We could probably do mass placement on some of these. A lot of times when I do mass placement, I'll leave my mouse in the same spot, just because Lumion will kind of place it randomly, but they're kind of almost grouped together. And then as for, let's get some green grass starting to kind of fade into the brown soil there. I don't know if that grass is the greatest. Yeah, it might be a little bit too green though. That looks all right. Just fine. This one shouldn't be there though. Okay, and let's get just a few different variations of that grass. Okay, we'll go on the other side here. Just add a few in there. Just do it along the edge there. That's looking good. Get a few out here. We might add quite a bit of fog in here, so it might not even matter what we do on that edge there. And then let's just do maybe some logs. I'm going to increase the scale just a bit there. See what we're working with. And then overall, what I'm going to do is I'm just noticing a lot of the plants are like floating. So I'm just going to hold Control, select all of the plants here in our scene. We're just going to lower them all down. Now make it a little bit more embedded into the landscape. Maybe not that far, but just a hair. That looks a heck of a lot better. Then let's add in some birds. We could do some seagulls this time. Awesome. Let's see if there's any good looking boats potentially. How big is this? wonder if we can make him just a bit smaller. Rotate that around. Put him kind of in the foreground there. Let's see what our rendering is going to look like. So let's add in, wrong button there. Okay, we'll do a custom style. I'm just going to do realistic for now. We're going to turn off our real skies. Okay, let's add in a sun. Maybe we'll add in some weather there. Maybe some precipitation. And let's pick a view. That's looking pretty cool already. I'm going to change our camera so we have a 2-point perspective and bring out our focal length just a bit more so we can get a lot out of this view. That looks nice. Okay, on our sun now, I'm going to change where it's at and the height. Let's rotate around so we can get some nice lighting starting to happen on these figures here. That's looking pretty cool. And get it kind of centered on our screen. Right about there. We're going to mess with the sun one more time so it's not super bright. Just bright enough. Okay. Awesome. And let's go back to our precipitation, particle quantity. Let's bring that lower. And then one thing I want to do is add in a sky. We'll go to sky and clouds, bring up the master cloud amount quite a bit. We'll put in some lower clouds there to kind of cover up our scene, make it a little bit moody. Higher clouds will bring that up as well. That's looking really nice so far. Awesome. I'm going to bring up our focal length one more time so we can really fill out the page here. Just get a glimpse of some birds up there in the sky. Try to center this out just a bit more. Okay. That's looking pretty good so far. Might bring up the sun. Maybe we turn it so right now it's at -39. Trying to get those tree shadows out of there. Get a little bit more detail on these figures. So kind of like one of them in shadow. Awesome. I didn't mirror it perfectly in the Rhino model, so that's why we're adjusting now. Okay. Right in there, looks pretty solid to me. We'll save that. We're at 6.4 on the sun. Let's see what happens when we bring it up a little bit higher. Looks a little bit better. In fact, I kind of like that. Now I'm going to go back to our weather. Precipitation. Let's bring in the additional fog blast there. You know what? The fog's not doing it for me on this. So let's go into our FX, go to weather again. Let's add in actual fog. We'll bring in the fog density quite a bit, so it's touching the background there. And then the fog fall off. Let's try to get some sky. There we go. It's much better. I think that's all set for rendering. I'm going to mess with the sun one more time. It's at 10. Let's bring it. It was 6 point something before. Bring it kind of in the center there. Get some nice kind of oranges, or orange softening starting to happen through there. And we're ready to render. Step. We're at 108. 108. Set. And we'll give it a go here. That's looking pretty good to me. And I think we're going to be all set for Photoshop next. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop. I'm just going to kind of use the burn and dodge tool just to kind of lighten some spots up here. Just to add some highlights to these kind of figures. not a lot really to do. Might just kind of, maybe I'll darken out some of these to add in some green. Let's go up to image, auto tone, see if that looks any better. I kind of like it before. See what auto color does. That looks all right. I'm just gonna duplicate the layer out, auto color that. Let's see what auto contrast does as well. And I'm just gonna lower that down so we kind of have a nice mixture of the two. Nice highlights starting to happen there. Flatten that image down. And we'll just highlight some areas on the water there. Looks good. Brighten up the sky. And I'm going to hit Control U, bring up the saturation just a bit there. Nothing too crazy. Awesome. And then we'll do our vignetting as usual. And again, guys, thanks for watching. Try to get back to these more and more. Like I said, the summer has kind of left me, so I am kind of back on track on the indoors here. So please like and subscribe, tell your friends. And I think this one is done. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.